just being a little idiot or whatever. Drax being James Gunn is like, let me remind everybody that these are badass aliens with superpowers, and they don't call them Guardians of the Galaxy for nothing.
Exactly, and then even the I wasn't even mad at the Warlock situation. I was like, oh, this could have been really throwaway thing, and he actually made it, so it actually made it fun.
It was a minor quibble for me, but it worked.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah. I was like, I would have wished it had been bigger, but he didn't have the time, so he's like, you know what? Let me figure out a way to get him in but then give him a little bit of shine, but then also do some stuff. So
yeah, but make it clear that this is it. Now, I didn't see the end credit scenes in theaters because I left. I've given up that a long time ago, but I would love to see the new Guardians team.
Yeah,
with
Philo and like yeah. I mean, like I said, they wrapped it up really, really well to a point where if they wanted to do a Guardians, they have all the rope to do it, and it makes sense. People can give cameos if they wanted to, and but everyone has a satisfied ending of where they're going off to next.
Yeah,
that's what it was good. So it's like if any of these actors wanted to do these again, they could totally do it. And if they didn't, we already know where their story's going, so we're already satisfied.
And once again, High Evolutionary, man, that dude was great villain. Great villain. But again, he did. And when you look back and you look at his villain selection, in comparison to other Marvel villains, now in retrospect, was Ronan really that bad of a villain?
No.
No. That's pretty good. What he was doing and what he was trying to do, and what he ultimately did. Like, I would say 3 strong villains. Ego was, like I've always said, probably was already up there with the best Marvel villains. Because just the fact
but again, all 3 of those villains are irredeemable. Yep. They don't have a thing that makes them, like sympathetic or like, they're bad, but they're being bad because like the Thanos thing, like, I tried to save my people, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Nobody can. No. I am evil for evil's sake. I'm trying to snuff out half of all living things everywhere in every universe, every time, for all time, because I am in love with Lady Death.
Yep.
I simply worship death.
That would have been cool. If they would have done that. That'd have been cool.
I think James Gunn was hinting at that Thanos in the first Guardians, because that Thanos, like I was saying, this dude told Ronan he bathed the Starways in his blood, and that's how they should have used Kang in Ant-Man 3. It should have been, okay, if you got MODOK answering to him, it's like MODOK is on the clock. Either he's getting Kang what he wants, or something's gonna give, and that was what it was with Ronan. You had Ronan, who was a scary villain. But then you had the guy above him who was like, look, I don't care about what you're saying right now.
Did you get the gem?
Exactly. You come back here next time and you don't have that gem, and I'm gonna do something bad to you. Yep. So that's those 3, Ronan, Ego, all 3 are redeemable. Ego kills his mom, kills mom, and tells him he did it. And they were all 3 classic examples of the sociopath.
Yeah, casually told him he killed his mom. It just didn't work out. I didn't really want to kill her, but
I gotta see which of these kids will work. I gotta spread my seed.
Exactly. He's like, man, I can't keep coming back here. If I keep coming back here, then I might end up staying. I might get locked down. So now I had to end that. That's that guy talk. Nah, it was easier to just put a tumor in her head and kill her than it was to just be an omnipotent God and disappear.
Have to keep coming back and checking, saying, she was nice.
It's extra petty when you think about a human's lifespan in comparison to his, where it's like, bro, you could have just skipped out on 50 years, came back, and she would have been old and firm and like close to death anyway.
And then you wouldn't have wanted to.
Yep.
Right. Like that's what made it even more callous. Is like, bro, this man said, I can't even wait 5 years. I'm just gonna give her a brain tumor.
Yep, exactly. As you guys already heard, we are Blerdlines, already talking about off-topic stuff, but With you, my name is Cam. With me, as always, is
Drax the Joshua,
as well as
the Guardian Professor. Always here to educate you, but also turn you off.
D'Angelo Warlock.
And
yes, exactly.
Contrary to popular belief, we're actually going to talk about Star Trek Strange New World, but we just got an off topic about Guardians 3 because we had recently rewatched it and it hit all the feels. And so we had to really, come back and compare notes. But yeah, we're here. Strange New World season 2 just wrapped. What finale was last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And to continue its epic journey of being the best Star Trek show on television, not named Lower Decks,
not named Lower Decks,
right.
Prodigy or RIP.
Yeah, Prodigy. Oh, that one hurt. Oh, dude, again, so good. I remember Josh told me to watch Prodigy, and I was like, Nickelodeon Star Trek, and then I watched it, and it's pretty damn good.
I was pleasantly stunned. I didn't realize it was going to get there. I just watched it for completion's sake because when they launched it, they were insisting like, yo, Prodigy's canon. Everything that happens on Prodigy's canon. I'm like, well, damn it. I've seen everything else.
So now you got.
So now I have to watch this.
Yeah.
And caught me complete. I mean, it is very childlike for the first third of the season, I'd say. And then at some point they just start taking this curve towards prop. And I remember the episode that sold me was their training episode where they decide, all right, fine, we're actually going to be Starfleet officers since we hijacked the an actual Federation starship. We can't keep rocking with this ship and not be at minimum cadets. And so Hologram Janeway, who is responsible for is their interface with the ship, sets up a training. And so she utilizes all the different characters from all the different shows to train them. And so their voice samples and images from original series, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, training them.
We had a lot of fun.
It's a really good episode and a dope homage to what came before. And that was the episode that got me. And literally everything else from there sort of dovetails towards including itself in the larger canon in ways that were familiar to people who watch Star Trek.
Yep. And know that Josh is more than, I think, especially more than me. He is the Trekkie of Trekkies. He knows the canon and the lore. And so that, because this is a guy who's even watched Enterprise with and all
to be fair, I still have not finished.
Oh, okay. I thought you watched them all.
No.
Okay.
I did not finish Enterprise.
Well, I stand corrected.
I watched it because my man Scott Bakula, aka Samuel Beckett from Quantum Leap, was on it, so I had to watch it.
I mean, that was my motivation as well, but I just, I just couldn't finish it. It was that bad.
It just kept dovetailing, and it's just like, yo. But
when I started and I heard that pop track as the intro, it was over. It was over.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair,
they wrote 31 stuff is good. That part stuff is good.
Yeah, I mean, the Section 31 episodes are really good, actually.
That's what I always heard.
They roller coastered pretty heavy. Like each time that they realized they were going off the air, they kind of let the writers off the chain and let them do whatever they wanted. And those episodes are great. It's this once they realized that they had a new lease on life, like fans wrote in, and I have no clue why fans wrote in to keep that show on the air, but fans wrote in, and
they had the characters were cool. I just wish the
characters were fine. Yeah, it's just.
I also think the conceit was good, showing the very first time, when humans first take flight to the stars and all that stuff. Everything canon and lore wise, I think that show has its place because of that. But I think they were trying to do so many things to distance it from Star Trek early on that it turned off me. I remember when they were referring to it in the first 2 seasons, I think, as just Enterprise. And I was like, okay, you what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, they were trying to reboot the franchise. I mean, and try to do something different. And it would have been, if it would have been like something like on the caliber of Strange New Worlds, I think it would have been different. But I think people would have embraced it more. But because it was subpar, then it just made it worse.
I think the thing with Enterprise was, I think the people just got tired of the same old formula from TNG and Voyager and DS9, and it wasn't a good deployment of that formula.
Yeah,
was the thing. So, it wasn't. I don't know how you can have that era, probably the most untouched era of Star Trek anything, and make that boring. Like, that should probably be. I mean, granted, you're sort of traveling backwards. Like, you're downgrading the technology. The ship is smaller. The crew size is smaller. They have no clue what the hell they're doing. They haven't met anybody yet outside of the Vulcans. So, you could make that interesting. They just didn't. They just didn't or couldn't. Even, and Bakula wasn't into it. When you were like, Cam, you've seen the Captain's movie, the documentary. He interviewed. He was like, I didn't like it. I didn't like a second of it.
Yeah.
I
mean, you can honestly, that I was just going to actually bring that up because that makes a lot of sense. You can honestly look at his performance and see that he's not into it. Like, he's not into it. Like,
now, and I would say on the flip side, Anson Mount for Captain Pike, he is having the time of his life. Like,
he's way into it.
Every scene, he's enjoying it. He has a nod, a wink and a nod. He like likes the uniform. He like enjoys like all of it. He always has, he has a good pain on his face when he has those flashbacks about his knowing his future, which I thought that was a really good thing that they did from Discovery, bringing it into Strange New Worlds, where it's like he knows exactly when he's going to die and how. So he's like, all right, well, what do I do with that knowledge? And that's also a trope that's happened in many of storytelling of like, you want to know how and when you die, or do you never want to know, which is, whatever. And would you act differently? Blah, 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 blah. And so I think overall, like Strange New Worlds, again, in contrast to our almost dearly departed Discovery, the crew. The crew is integral to the whole thing. Like, everyone's name, why they're there. You have interpersonal relationships, and you actually care about the stuff that's going on. And I think that
I'd like to point out the skill and acumen of our wonderful host, who turned the wheel ever so gently away from what we were talking about with Enterprise on over to the actual topic.
I am a gentleman and a scholar, my friend. This is
clearly
pretty good. Clearly. It's pretty good, guys.
You were saying
you got to rate the ship. Make sure we're on topic.
No, I see. Hey, I see you. I'm just ignoring the God. You know what I mean?
But I would say, and I like that they always keep the future kind of situation in the forefront. And so they did a really good job with that, with my favorite episode, crossover with Lower Decks. This shit was amazing. But there was a really good point where Boiler, he talks to Spock, and Spock's like smiling and laughing. And he's like, what the fuck just happened?
Did I just break Spock?
Yeah. And I like that he was like, okay, this is not good because Spock's supposed to be stoic and his whole thing and blah, 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 blah. And then when he finds out that, he's not that, he's like, okay, this must be a phase because whatever's happening right now must not stick, because we need to make sure that he gets back to his old self. And he accidentally tells that to Spock's current love interest. And she's like, oh, so I don't make a difference in his life. Thanks.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, Nurse Chapel. But they're playing that. And ever since I heard Damon Lindelof use these phrases in terms of canon and continuity, Old Testament versus New Testament, I tend to use it with these bigger extended mythologies like Star Trek. And the original series is undoubtedly Old Testament, but now with all the new stuff, you could probably group all of the 90s and before series as somewhat Old Testament. But anyway, the true Old Testament, as far as Star Trek and especially this, is the original series, right? And I think what they've done with those characters, specifically Kirk, Uhura, Spock, and we had an appearance by Mr. Scott. And so every time they've done that, it's never taken away with what's going on right then and there. It never feels like this is nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, or this is a nod at this person or that for that sake. It always comes off as natural. The specific example is when the DP, the director, gets them all, Spock, Kirk, and Uhura all in the same scene, and then pulls one character that doesn't belong in that dynamic out, and you see and pull the camera out, you see those three kind of like in their early days of just kind of like hanging around. Of course, Spock is like all, he's got no smile or anything, but yet he's engaged with Kirk and Uhura, and anybody that knows Star Trek knows exactly what that scene is meant, who is meant for, and what is meant to say.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where, and again, it would be awesome if they, Discovery tried to do this of like kind of going on their own path and like, being outside of the TNG, DS9, Enterprise, all that, the original stuff, but didn't successfully do well. And so I think Strange New World does a great job of having have new stories and all that stuff within the universe, but then also just getting a little tads in, just little nods. Like, there's Kirk's pops. Oh, here's Montgomery Scott. Oh, yep. Spock's hanging out. But this is before when he was still trying to figure out his whole stoic shit. Like, I like that they still continue on the path of making new stories, but playing in a sandbox and expanding that sandbox without treading, like Discovery is a good example. Discovery freaking redesigned the Klingons. That shit was fucking horrible.
Yeah, and everybody hated it.
And everyone hated it. And then they had to they didn't need to do it. I don't know why they did it. It was literally on someone was filling themselves and they're like, yo, but make a stamp on it. Because other than the redesign of the Klingons in general of that first season for Discovery, I actually enjoyed watching.
First two seasons worked.
They worked as a hero's journey, focusing on a singular character and Michael Burnham. That was working, but it wasn't working. I think they eventually felt that they needed to get back to the Trek tradition of having her on a ship with a crew and all those things. They just didn't know how to. They just didn't seem to know how to figure out how to get there because, like you said, the first two seasons, the biggest transgression was the Klingon design. Somebody thought in their mind, "This is what I think the Klingons are. They're more reptilian."
So early on in the show, meanwhile, Enterprise is the earliest iteration of anything, and they look exactly the way that they did in TNG. There was nothing to talk about.
And they've had, obviously, those times. Remember the whole joke about the way they looked in the original series. They've covered all this in Star Trek lore.
And how did they cover it, D'Angelo? What did they use?
One line of dialogue.
Oh, okay.
They use that one line of dialogue. And Worf doesn't even go into detail. He's just like, what did he say? He's like, it's complicated.
It's a sensitive topic. We don't talk about it with outsiders. No.
We don't talk. That's exactly what it is. Of course, Josh knows. We don't talk about it with outsiders. And so they could have done. They didn't need to touch the Klingons, and yet they did. And so going back to Strange New Worlds, I think, were smart enough to see all the things that both Discovery and Picard have gotten wrong in this generation of Star Trek. And they haven't done, and I always forget that there's only 10 episodes in these seasons. So like I'm watching and I'm like, wow, these episodes are great. They feel good. And then before you know it, here's the finale. And I'm like, wow, they're really marching toward, they know where they're going. And they are taking us there in the way that we appreciate from Star Trek storytelling.
I think for me, their biggest accomplishment is nailing Kirk. Like, that's a touchy subject amongst Star Trek nerds. Like,
and William Shatner.
Yeah, and William Shatner.
And William Shatner.
And William Shatner, yes, exactly.
We love William Shatner, but he definitely is sensitive about
He
Kirk.
will, he will open his mouth on it in a second if he doesn't like it.
He's like, I'm the only one of all you guys has gone to space, so shut up.
That's a fair statement.
It's a statement.
But yeah, you don't get that right, and you've pretty much lost the fan base. And I haven't heard anybody, and it's neutral, so it's perfect, because I haven't heard like, oh man, he's that, and he's reminiscent of Shatner, and none of that. But I don't see any commentary about him at all, which is an accomplishment, because that means he slots right in.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
And the actor is Paul Wesley, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Paul Wesley, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not trying to do anything. He's not trying to invoke Shatnerisms.
Nope.
He's just a pretty boy in the Navy, and he has that swagger. I am a naval commander at this point, a lieutenant commander or commander.
Yeah, he's a prodigy. No pun intended, because yeah, but he is though. I mean, promotions come easy to him. He's already making legendary marks as a early Starfleet officer, and yes, he was just promoted to commander.
Right.
And obviously, you have him come through here and there, because again, we know that this ship is going to be his one day.
Right.
We know
transition to him. Yeah,
exactly. At least two of the main bridge crew will carry over and be iconic members of his crew. Mm-hmm. So I like that they're not playing coy with their use of Kirk. They're like, listen, he exists right now. He's gonna be doing things because of who he is, because he's a prodigy, because he's also comes from a famous Starfleet family or whatever, or renowned Starfleet family. He's going to be involved, but they don't ever. He's not outshining Anson Mount, or the character of Kirk is not outshining Pike at this point. And there is a start. I like that when they come together, they are quick to show the difference between James T. Kirk and Christopher Pike.
Right.
And Christopher Pike is legitimately the Boy Scout captain of Star Trek.
Yeah.
He harkens back to what the log line was for Picard, which is equal parts administrator, explorer, scientist. He's very much all of those things. And I think they're doing a good job of, because Kirk is the opposite. Kirk was supposed to be a cowboy. Which I remember being like the Roddenberry sort of description. His logline for the character was Captain Kirk is a cowboy, and they lean into that throughout all of Trek history. He's always referred to as, they always refer to that era as the cowboy era, referring to Kirk specifically because he was wilding. Let's just call it what it is. He was wild. But
he had a checklist of colors that he wanted to have sex with. Like,
yes, sir.
Blue, pink, yellow.
And if there's anybody that gave his own interpretation of the Prime Directive, it was James T. Kirk.
Oh God, yes.
So that being said, and also shout out to Strange New Worlds for doing a musical episode that isn't annoying and actually worth watching.
Yeah.
And I now, whether you like musicals or not, I'm not necessarily a fan, but I would put this episode in the same level as a Buffy, because Buffy set the standard for musical episodes, and everyone else has been trying to catch up to it since. And that was almost 20 years ago now, roughly.
Yeah.
And this was in the same. The only other one I can say that kind of gets in the same realm of it was probably from The Magicians. For anyone that's seen their musical episodes, but half that cast is Broadway people anyway, so of course it's gonna be good. But yeah, the musical episode was not annoying.
I agree, and I don't like musicals,
nor do I,
or storylines where characters break out into song and espouse musical exposition. I hate it, but this was not bad, and it didn't.
And the cast members can sing,
and they can sing. They are harmonic, it was cool. It was. I think it is just more showing that these writers get how to thread a Star Trek arc for 10 episodes. They don't have to do a serial drama, a serialized story where every episode picks up after the last one. And because you saw that the main sort of thread or the main greater scope narrative was the fact that the Gorn are now on the move and the Federation is trying to figure out how to answer that without entering an open war.
Yeah.
And they established that, set that up in the first episode, and sprinkle a little bit in several episodes throughout, but you don't get another main episode like that until the very last finale episode. And it was a great finale episode because the way they built the Gorn is I like how they've sort of not shown them, especially considering the lore of the Gorn and the look of the Gorn and how a big deal that was in a funny way.
That was a great costume in the original series episode. Thank you.
It was brilliant.
For all those that don't know, it's the old school. First appeared 1967. Basically looks like a bad Godzilla head on a man with green skin.
Yes. And William Shatner fights him as Kirk. But again, we accept that and we allow it. But now the Gorn are having their much needed what would we call it? Reprisal or reinvention. That's what I'm looking for. And it's working. They are terrifying. They present a substantial threat to our characters, the Enterprise and the Federation. And you see that when they're involved, there are things at stake.
Again, we go back to our stakes part, right? So we constantly beat that drum where it's like, if there's no stakes, there's no reason to have a show. And so in this one, there's actual stakes, right? Pike's sitting over like, all right, I got to go get my people. And then Admiral's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We can't really start an international war, an intergalactic war right now. So you need to chill. So now what does Pike do? Does Pike go Pike and be like, all right, that's what I'm going to do? Or does Pike go Kirk and be like, fuck these dudes, it's time to ride?
And in the middle of that is Pike's overwhelming altruism. So to do the right thing because it is the right thing, prime directive, war posture be damned. His people are there. They're in trouble. These ruthless enemies are coming down on them. What is he gonna? And so they leave that as the cliffhanger. And again, this harkens back to the Trek that we know and love, where we would get standalone episodes that focused on the crew and allowed the crew to be developed over time. So we have reasons to care about Nurse Chapel and M'Benga and everybody. And then
but you say that as though there's a show in the Star Trek canon that doesn't do that. Discovery.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Anybody that listens
sorry.
Anybody that listens to us know which one that one is. And so, again, they do it right. So we get to that last episode and we have something at stake. Then you have the mini stakes with Captain Patel and her alien situation.
Yep. And then I like it that, her and Pike got a little thing. So it's kind of like, oh man. She got a little love interest, but now she got a life-threatening situation that might happen to her. So you're like, oh no. So now you're conflicted, like, oh, they're gonna save her, and then like all these other things. So you're right. I think, they got the opportunity to see how not to do it with Discovery.
Yeah.
And they made sure, because even our first season, like we said, the first season was a warm hug to all the Star Trek fans for enduring freaking Discovery and that god awful Big Picard season 2.
Yeah.
So now they're just like taking the ball and even running it. And then also and what I like too is going back to the Lower Decks episode when both of them are back in there and then they're meeting all these people that they know as of stories. And I love that Boiler is basically like, oh snaps, you're a war hero. Oh, you're on my poster. Like and so again, it makes you more like you're getting more pieces of these crew people that have like there's a reason why they're here and they're all supposed to be here for a specific reason, and each person plays a role. And then and it's cool that they show when you have quote unquote future characters interacting with them because there is such an awe and all that. So you're just like, okay, these people actually are supposed to be somebodies, you know.
But they also do a good job of using those things to sort of foreshadow and seed future stories. Like we don't know what the navigator, the pilot. Yeah, Ortega. We don't know we don't know what her role was in the war. They just allude to it, and this was just another episode sort of alluding to, oh, she's a war hero. Word? Dude, pray tell.
Yeah. And I think that's been the beauty of watching these episodes is that even in that crossover episode, they used Boimler to even say things that are just for the audience, like when he says that comment about Worf or whatever, and
La'an has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Like, huh? and the actors probably have to do their best to not nerd out because they're playing in a different time and space and they're familiar with it, but it was just a fun. It was way funner. I mean, not a big fan of Jack Quaid, but he's great as Boimler, and Tawny Newsome as
she killed it.
Tawny Newsome,
so good.
Yeah, she's great. She had a comment about Jonathan Frakes. She said that he's just like the best, like he's an actor's director, and they just enjoy working with him so much. I like how Pike was like the only one who was like absolutely fascinated by Boimler's hero worship. Like Pike, Pike was actually
kind of nice.
Yeah, he's like wanting to engage. He's like, oh, so I'm whoa, what? I'm and it was probably, and it makes sense though, because of the MacGuffin hanging over his head.
Yeah.
Sure. Out of all of them, would be most curious about what the name Christopher Pike, what his legacy is in spite of, because he knows that he's not going to actually die. Like he's gonna be alive.
Yeah, but he's incapacitated basically.
Right, but living.
Yeah, he knows he's gonna be with the Telosians in that in what I forget what the heck it's called, but basically like a giant wheelchair encounter suit.
Right, exactly. For those of you who don't know what we're referring to in Star Trek lore, Josh hit him with it.
So in the 2-part episode Menagerie Parts 1 and 2 in Star Trek original series, it's shown how Pike went from the able-bodied captain that we know him to be into a man who has an accident and basically ends up in he's paralyzed, his body, he's horribly disfigured, and ends up in not even a wheelchair, it's more a life support system box.
Yeah, it's like a Vader sort of box but on wheels.
Yeah, basically. And he's completely incapacitated, ends up with a race called the Telosians, who basically communicate via telepathy. And so they can project images into your mind. And of course, one of the images that they project to people is that Pike is still able-bodied, functioning, and what have you, when in fact he's the exact. There's a trial because Spock, having been his Pike's former science officer before Kirk takes over as captain of the Enterprise. In a nutshell, Spock is charged. He basically is court-martialed, and because he basically took command. If I remember correctly, he violated somehow, and because it's been a while since I watched the episode. But bottom line is, he ends up taking Pike to that. He ends up, if I remember correctly, he hijacks the Enterprise and uses it to take Pike to that planet. or to revisit that planet somehow.
I think that's
that's the way.
And even beyond that, Josh, the whole Pike. So that's the setup of the show, and then the whole Pike was originally supposed to be the captain on the original series, and they shot a pilot with an actor as Pike, but then things happened, and long story short, Kurt became the new guy and the captain, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, and I think also it's cool because they bring that into Discovery about how he actually like learns that, and it was cool because I remember when Pike got into Discovery, I was kind of like, I wonder how they're going to play this.
Mm-hmm.
Completely made it dope. Also bringing in Spock, which was also good, and then that elevated the season of Discovery and the rest of the crew actually. And then when they finally kind of branched off, you get to the point where, Pike actually gets to see his actual future. And he's like, shit, if I do this, this is my future. If I don't do this, it's not my future. Of course, he's altruistic, so he's going to do it.
Yep.
But now he has that lingering over him for the rest of his life. And so I like that in the end of that season for Discovery, he kind of like has that in the back of his mind. And then when they open in regular Strange New Worlds, that's still there. But it still operates on some like, well, I know it, so let me just keep going and just enjoy why I got it, basically.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that did was it allowed the writers to have an actual beginning, middle, and end framework.
Yep.
Because they know where they're going, they know which point where they have to land this thing on, and because of that, you had two seasons of really great storytelling. And the whole time, especially this season, we haven't mentioned that there hasn't been a lot of mention of Pike's pending doom, because you don't have to think about it because they're, we're in the middle of it. So, yeah.
Let me correct a previous statement. My memory just jogged. So Spock kidnaps Pike, wheelchair Pike, and hijacks the Enterprise to take him to the Telosians, because that's where he'll be able to live out his life with a semblance of some sort of dignity, and he can project his thoughts and sort of still appear to be seen as walking around and able-bodied and all that other jazz. But we don't get to that because basically we don't get to that right away, because, like I said, Spock gets court-martialed for those activities.
Yeah, and I think that lingering in his mind in season 2 is still there, but he still tries to live a quasi-normal life and do things. Yeah. And so I think that with the love interest stuff, with exploring, always having his people's back and that kind of stuff, and even I laugh when again Lower Decks episode, when they're talking about the future stuff, and then Ortega's is like, yeah, I would say future too. Relax, it's cool.
Yeah.
One of the major accomplishments of this episode is that the use of time travel did not annoy the hell out of D'Angelo.
Yeah, they achieved this season. This is why I know that these writers, I can at least put some faith in them, because they did two things that normally would just turn me into a Hulk monster. One was they did a time travel episode to cross over with Star Trek Lower Decks, and it was really fun, really well done, and I enjoyed it. And then there's the musical, which I have a nickname for those type of shows. They're called Abominations. And so I got through this one, and I will remove the Abomination title, but only for this one. I put it on Buffy with an asterisk just because I just can't get behind the supernatural singing. But that was a good episode. Don't get me wrong. It was a greatly written episode, that Buffy episode. And this year in Strange New World, the same thing. But the time travel one is definitely one that didn't bother me, because it was moving one The only thing was the butterfly effect, grandpa father paradox.
Right.
But I like the idea of a portal, of a wormhole, moving from one space and time to another via some quick energy, some energy that allows for the fast transfer.
To make you feel what it takes to get D'Angelo to watch a musical, followed by a crossover episode that includes time travel. 3 things that he is very opposed to on a regular basis.
Oh yeah,
the conversation literally was, "Bro, they're dope. Bro, they're dope. Bro, they're dope. You need to watch. You need to watch. You should watch it. I think you should watch it." That was pretty much me for about a day.
And my response to him, I don't know. Yeah, I'll skip. It was literally me throwing back any reason to not watch those episodes just because of the fact that they were using those devices, time travel and musical. But again, as it's been said, as it's been mentioned, those were, and they ended up being highlights of the season. Fun episodes, strongly written, didn't take away from anything, and kept the story going. And the musical episode was tied to science, which I always love.
Yeah,
and you know, it was fine.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna be annoyed as hell at that. So I don't have D'Angelo's proclivities against time travel or crossover episodes. My thing is just it needs to be done right.
And I don't mind crossover episodes. It's just the time travel thing that I don't.
Okay, my bad.
I don't dig jive.
But yeah, I'll allow Star Trek time travel just because at this point it's been like 40 years.
Yeah, it's kind of like the staple of Star Trek.
Yeah, it's a little late now. So
storytelling. Yeah.
So even before, I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was time travel was done correctly. The musical episode was everything that what I'm told, because I don't really watch musicals, but from what I've read and what I've been told, the musical episode was equal parts heartfelt, humorous at times, tugged on your heartstrings, and tugged on your heartstrings with pre-existing things that are already subplots that are already ongoing on the show that you actually are made to care about already, and this sort of advances it in some cases.
Yeah. It's all character development, and that's what makes it justified and what made it feel good. What made it good, because it was not just them trying to get from point A to point B for some highfalutin plot. Yeah. It was these characters who are in a specific moment in their arc having to work out certain issues. I think one of the more tender moments was when Spock kept trying to figure out what the deal is with Chapel, and she's clearly trying to communicate with him that it's not really about him, it's about her. And so the scene where they're all singing and he's just like standing there trying to listen to them, and then she finishes the song and he's just kind of like, oh, and then just walks away.
Like, well, then screw you.
Yeah, it's a funny moment because it's so Spock, and it's like, why would a song move a Vulcan? And after all that, he just like, okay, and just walks out.
Fine, bye.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, those moments made it.
Okay, so now that they wrapped up the season 2, they're clearly the best Star Trek show on right now.
Yes.
With the writer's strike and the production and then the actor strike, the only other thing we're gonna get, the only thing we're gonna be getting Star Trek related in the future on slate is essentially just the season 3, which is that's already been thing, and then possibly a Section 31 movie. Is that what they said? Now that was the last rumor.
The last rumor was that they've scrapped the idea of the television series because they want to maximize. Now, Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
No, it's not. The idiots. They could have, and I say this time and again, they dilly-dallied on something that everybody wants Everybody wants a Section 31 show, and they had her already. She's already on. She's already in. She likes doing the character. And the show idea is sound. Of course, you can do a Section 31 show, an early Section 31 show with her. She wants to do it. She's interested. She says several times that they talked about doing it, and if they want to do it, I'm down. What? And they dilly-dallied, and then it fell out of the news. And then she wins an Oscar, and suddenly the same week that she wins an Oscar, Paramount announces that they're now doing a Section 31 movie.
But also the pandemic played a big role in that as well, because everything shut down. No, it did, because we worried that certain things like Strange New Worlds and a lot of shows were getting cut during that. Because of that. So, they
waffled on it before that. You know what I mean? Like, it had already fallen out of news.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that there's another element to that, which is
sure. Yes, I will acknowledge that. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think with that, where you guys wanted to go now, because we're done with Picard's done, quote unquote.
No, it's done.
What's it called? Discovery has last season, and then this has a third one, which will happen whenever they start all this writer strike. So where do you guys want it? Because now that they've introduced Scotty. Got Spock in there. We got Kirk. Who else is left? We got Uhura. They got they got everybody already, right?
We don't have McCoy.
Oh, McCoy's the last one left.
Yeah, I can see him. See, because it seems like what they're doing is each season they're telling us where the main crew that will ultimately be Kirk's crew, where they are
before, right?
And there's two others that aren't there: Sulu and Chekhov.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But weren't both of them like young dudes when they got on Star Trek? Like that was like their first post or something.
How y'all forget the Asian dude? Bunch of racists.
But those two, that was like their first post when they got into Kirk's ship, right?
I think Chekhov's first post was the Enterprise. I'm not sure about Sulu.
Well, I think I would like to see them attempt to do something with the Legacy group, with Seven as captain and Geordi, in terms of Star Trek shows. I mean, I think with Strange New Worlds, they are going to cap that at 5 seasons. I mean, it's even in the Pike's opening monologue.
Our 5-year
yeah. So I think they're
and then every starship that went out into deep space did a 5-year mission.
Yeah.
Right, but I think they specifically put it in that because before in Picard's it wasn't there, and then in Kirk's it wasn't 5-year
mission.
Kirk was a
4-year, 5-year mission.
Oh, okay.
Picard was our continuing mission.
Yeah.
So they did away. So in TNG era, they did away with the 5-year mission.
Right.
Because now the Alpha Quadrant and Federation is just sprawling. So they've contacted most of the major players already. Not that there aren't new races to meet. The whole show is about new life forms. But by TNG era, they've done away with the exploratory 5-year mission.
Okay, well, I still think they should cap it at 5, but they could probably get 6 or 7, which is most of the Star Trek. And because they're only doing 10 episodes, they could probably get away with the 6 or 7. But
you can do 7.
But I would rather I'd rather them cap it off at tell a solid, tight story because you know where you're going. You don't need to stretch it out for no reason.
Yep.
So if they did, I'm just saying if they did do just 5, I would really love that just because I think that would make everything that they build up to that last season even stronger once they finish it. But
even Discovery will be 5, right? When it ends?
Yeah, it'll be 5.
Yeah, oh, wow.
And I think they probably could have done more had they that structure.
Had they not botched season.
Yeah, had they not botched it from season 3 on.
Yeah.
I think they would have been able to do at least 2 more. Because every Star Trek show until Enterprise did 7 at least. Well,
7 seasons.
Yeah, like
not
7 seasons.
The original series might have equal to 7 seasons if you put it in the context of what's that?
With the 25,000 episodes they did,
yeah.
per season.
Right, but they only call it 3 seasons. Like on Paramount, they break it up to 3 seasons. But if you look at it, each one has like 30 episodes, 30 episodes. Yep. So that was before they were doing like
44
and breaking it up like
episode season.
Exactly. So the original series probably would total to about 5 to 7 seasons if they broke it up.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'm down with that. I think if Strange New Worlds caps at 5 and tells like a nice, complete, tight story, that'd be dope. And I think, if we get a spinoff with the Baby Picard and 7 and freaking them, that would be dope too. That'd be fun. Something I like the world that they showed in Picard was the part that was actually the cool part. And I think that's like all the quibbles and all the other stuff and how they did my man Rios and other stuff, whatever's. But the thing that they did do well was they really did expand the world of TNG, and they really showed where everyone was at, and they gave them a proper send off. Like we got our old TNG crew a moment when they're all in the conference room talking, so. I thought they did a good job. And then they got the redemption from a man, Geordi. You know what I'm saying? My man, Geordi out here with the wife and 2 kids. Like,
yeah, he actually had sex with him.
Exactly. He was basically simped the whole TNG. So I think if Strange New Worlds gets a solid 5, that would be dope. That was actually
LeVar Burton's prerequisite for coming back on the show.
Oh, make sure
we gotta give him. He had to win. He had to win at some point.
Yeah,
out here. But yeah, I think where they're going now, like I said, now that as of right now, officially all they have is Strange New World. I think they're in a good space, and I hope, if nothing else, during this year, they're really thinking about what they want to do with the Star Trek franchise. Because even when Picard was at Comic-Con last time, or the Disney or Paramount Day or whatever that was, when he was basically saying like, I mean, we out here just chilling, so y'all want to do a movie, and we ain't opposed.
Yeah, all of them are pretty much retired. They're not retired, but they're just like only doing Star Trek when they're called up. But
stay working.
Yeah, Frank's the only one. The rest of them, they're like
doing other stuff.
Spiner does a lot of stuff too, with voice work and all kind of like I was surprised to see his voice in a few things recently, but. The other thing that I look forward to in terms of if they do a legacy type show is the fact that it would be set in the present day world of Star Trek.
Many years after TNG.
Exactly. And Deep Space Nine and Voyager, it's set after those shows, which were the sequels to the original show.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Right, I'm including TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, all as the trilogy of shows that were sequels to the original show. Because Enterprise was the first show that took it back, and then Discovery took it back, and then leaped goddamn beyond
900 plus years.
Yeah, and then Picard was the present day, and Strange New Worlds took it back to that beloved pre-cowboy era, that we loving so much right now. What would we call Pikes? The Boy Scout era. So the Boy Scout era, then the
cowboy era,
the cowboy era, and then
TNG is the administrator era.
I was just gonna say the administrator era. Then you got the war general era with
Cisco.
With Cisco, and then
the Explorer
era. You got the
Janeway.
Lost Explorer era with Janeway. So I think we just broke down real nicely each arc. Discovery, we'll just call that an anomaly, and then and Picard will be
do the black woman like that. Don't do that.
I can't do.
It's the only reason I'm still watching
like that, man. I love Sneakwa.
Yeah, she's the only reason I'm still watching. I'm like,
literally.
It's the only reason I'm still watching.
So we'll just call that the Burnham book era.
The Burnham era, yes.
The Burnham era. So we'll just simplify it like that. Call it the Burnham era.
But signify it by the good thing that happened.
So I want to see more an extension of where they left off with Picard, where the Federation is probably at the peak of its existence, in terms of what they can do.
Yep, fat and opulent.
Yeah, exactly. It might be a decadent time in which a new kind of thing might have worked. I think they should stick with the exploring first and just kind of discovering, no pun intended, and doing all that stuff before they get into the big stakes. Maybe it's the Borg, maybe it's the Dominion or the bigger, big bad stuff. I think we've had enough of that with Picard and Discovery, where each season there's some kind of big bad that they have to solve, and the whole galaxy is going to be consumed.
Yeah, and that's why Strange New World works, where it's like there is a big bad looming, but it's not sucking up all the oxygen.
Right.
It is like you said, it was sprinkled through the whole season. You get a little bit in the beginning, sprinkled through the whole season. It hits you in the face in the finale, and then they got to resolve it when we come back. And so at least that you give characters have enough time to like have interpersonal relationships, got some growth going on. Time travel an episode or two. They can go sing. They can, they got time to do stuff. You fight the Borg every episode. You can't do that.
I'm of a different mind. I'm a big fan of the big stakes episode, the big stakes, bad guy, the galaxy ending, the galaxy threatening threat, or at least the Federation threatening threat. Because I think they do, when it's done right, they do a good job of building to it. Like, I didn't build to the Gorn all that heavily, which brings me to a point that I want to make. I am tired of watching the Enterprise run away from a fight. That is the one complaint that I have about Strange New Worlds. Seems like every time something pops off, Pike is very afraid of starting an interstellar incident, or he's just like, oh, we can't take him on, so we got to run. Like, that's the Enterprise, dog. You're supposed to be able to take on everybody.
To be fair, though, and I agree, but to be fair, he is trying to be loyal to his friend, and who is the Admiral, which is April, who's gave him he's spinning the company line when he does that. And what I like about that is that this season, more than the last season, you saw that cracking throughout the whole season, where he starts off spinning that line that April was spinning, but by the end, he's like, okay, now we just acting like a little, we being wimps right here, and we gonna let our people die or be enslaved because we don't want to start some kind of conflict with these mugs that's literally trying to provoke us. Like, the Gorn are literally standing up to the Federation and pushing them like what? What you gonna do about it?
Yep.
What you gonna do about it?
That's a fair statement. Okay. Yeah. I will retract my previous statement in favor of what you just said.
I agree, though. I want to see the Enterprise fighting more. I agree with you. I just think that they've let
there's a reason for it.
Yeah, they've given us a narrative reason for it.
And that's what I mean when I say, like, I retract my previous statement, because that's a good point.
Gotcha.
In terms of what I want to see, I mean, aside from what I just said, like a little bit more of the Enterprise punching, they get pushed. Maybe lean a little bit away from, the impending doom of that Pike is facing, and he kind of comes to terms with, like, all right, man, like, I got X amount of time left, I gotta live. So he's just gonna go and do whatever and not really worry about it's not gonna be front of mind that he's gonna end up in a wheelchair with blinking buttons on it, with blinking lights on it, rather.
Well, you don't think they've already kind of done that? Because this season they didn't really focus on Pike. Well, it didn't really think about that at all.
Well, at the end of the season, it looked like him freezing up on the bridge as the Gorn basically started tearing the Enterprise to shreds. At least the way I interpreted him freezing up was him freezing up because he thinks that future is about to come true.
Oh, see, I didn't even get that. I thought it was all tied to the whole posture, the whole fact that he was that they're trying to avoid the conflict.
Right.
Exactly. He has in his mind, he's weighing, okay, do I say my people? Do I not say? Do I listen to April? Do I not listen to April? But your interpretation could be true too. And I think that's the brilliance of leaving us on that shot, is because we don't know what he's saying.
What caused his hesitation in that moment. Right.
Exactly. But it could be a combination of all those things. I didn't think about that until now, but that's a good point. Like he could have been very well thinking that this is it, and that froze him because it would freeze a person. But yeah, okay, yeah.
I mean, you raise a fair point too. I'm thinking D'Angelo should just tell me what else I'm thinking because I agree. But in terms of what I want to see, I think a 5-year bid would probably do the trick. I wouldn't be mad if they gave us 7 so long as there's more there. I'm not in favor of doing 7 seasons if it means that they're just stretching the hell out of plot. I think there's enough story to tell that they can do 7 seasons. They just have to do that dance with a certain amount of skill, which they've displayed that they're capable of thus far.
And they're keeping it to 10 eps. So if they do 70 episodes, it gets a better reception than 7 seasons, 160, 180 episodes.
No.
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, man, that's dope. Well,
but yeah, a larger Star Trek. I mean, obviously, I will take whatever Section 31 thing they give us at this point. We've been waiting this long.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's a Section 31. Let's get a 7 as a captain show. That would be fun because
Star Trek
one, let's add another woman as a captain. Boom, makes it cool. 2, Baby Picard. By the end, actually, I wasn't too annoyed with him.
He was okay, and the
actor did cool, and then Jardy siblings were cool. So it's like, I think they have enough there that if they wanted to expand it, which I know they will, because capitalism. So let's figure it out, and if they can, it's one of those things where I hope folks are thinking about it. I mean, they probably are. They have a whole year because this writer strike's not going anywhere until October, January, but. Like, I really hope they think about what they want to do going forward. And
so from what I've read, as far as Star Trek Legacy is concerned, the 7 of 9 captaining the Enterprise thing, Kurtzman is on record saying he's heard what the fans have said, and basically he's, without saying it, he's basically pitching it to Paramount. And Paramount is already dedicated to the idea of year-round Trek. Yeah. Like every time a show drops, another drops off the grid, another one pops right up to place.
But they're trying to get that Disney Plus Star Wars energy going. Where Star Wars,
he was I forget who it was they interviewed, but the guy was pretty candid. He was like, "We know that people are dropping their subscriptions once their thing is gone, whatever that show is, whether it's Yellowstone or whatever other crap is on there." Or Star Trek, once they don't have their show, once they've blown through their show, they drop the subscription. Their plan basically is to have year-round, like this is 4 Yellowstone spinoffs that they have at this point. They want to do something similar with Star Trek, where whatever your show is, we're going to give it to you year-round, so you will not be canceling. There won't be like a quarter or 3 months, 2 or 3 months where you're not using our subscription service, because as soon as one of the shows that you're watching is done, there's a related show right behind it. So you if it's a couple of weeks, you're not going to drop Paramount Plus for like 2 weeks so you can get some star. Like, you're just going to keep it going.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and with Star Trek they can do it.
Yep.
Because of all the content it's got. So I was going to say there's a cautionary tale for them with AMC and The Walking Dead, but then again, The Walking Dead IP doesn't stretch as far as Star Trek or Star Wars. So,
that, and they bastardized the hell out of all versions of The Walking Dead as they exist right now.
Oh, absolutely.
It seems there's at least a partial dedication to a certain kind of quality where Star Trek shows are concerned.
No, I agree. Because you can say what you want about both Picard and Discovery in terms of the quality of storytelling, but those shows have the full shebang in terms of the budget, the dedication to details and things like that. They don't just phone in the visuals, the aspects that cost the most. So So yeah, and again, they just a Star Trek IP will stretch way further than a Walking Dead IP any day. So I thought about it as a cautionary tale, but I was like, no, Paramount won't have that issue. The strange thing is that they did cancel Prodigy, because I feel like maybe they could have just moved it to only on the streaming, but then again, that's still money that they're having to pay to produce it, and they probably cut it for budgetary reasons.
Well, one of the VPs is on record saying he does not care how it happens, but he swears that Prodigy will be back on something on Paramount at some point.
Well, from his lips to the corporate god's ear, we'll see.
We started out saying at the top of the show, Prodigy's not a bad show. Both me and Cameron watched it, and I gotta tell you, it gets there. It takes its time getting there. The first quarter of it is kind of but if you stick with it, there are absolutely rewards that.
And it feels like those first 2 seasons of like Clone Wars, where it's like at first you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work, and then you're like, oh wait, this works. This is dope.
Well, I think it's the same thing with the Young Justice effect over with Warner Brothers with the WBD, which is Disney is different. Disney knows the value of animation, and regardless of the fact that it is an animated show, that it can cross between being from a child to a teen to an adult. It has a crossover audience, and they double down and they invest in it. Whereas I feel like with Paramount and with WBD, they're like, okay, these IPs aren't as strong as the live action stuff. So if there's something that has to be cut, we're going to cut the anime. It doesn't matter that it's getting all these rave reviews and the audience continues to grow.
Toys? Is it selling its other supporting merch and all that stuff?
Right.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Once that happens, then it's no longer valuable. But like I said, you can see that's the one thing I'll give Disney credit for in the Star Wars era and in the Disney Plus era, which is they don't shun or trivialize animation.
Yeah.
And animated storytelling. In fact, they elevate it even more with their efforts, like with What Ifs and the visions and stuff like that. Like they allow animators to, in my opinion, feel on level with the live action storytellers, which they should be, again, because if you have something like a Young Justice or a Prodigy that is actually telling good stories, and the only thing that you're looking at is, it's animated characters, but voice actors still are putting their all into it, and the writing is still there. So, but I think that's what it is. I think despite all of those good things, they just don't see the value. And that's why I said, I hope that guy is right. The AP of Prodigy is from his lips to the corporate people at Paramount's ears, because it should be a simple thing. That's more IP. That's more content.
Yep.
It's probably cheaper content that you could produce and that you could have, and it has an audience. Why cut it? Well, because you don't see the value in it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think to put a wrap on most of it, I was going to say, I think that's the thing where I think if Star Trek is starting, if they take at least a cue from what Disney's been doing, then I think they'll have a better understanding, because they have the same type of level of IP that they could and sandbox to play with, that they can definitely do that and keep that sustainability. Because if they really are going to have, a Star Trek something almost every other quarter or something to that effect, they have the IP around to do it. Josh, I'm gonna give you the final word as our Star Trek expert.
I was just gonna say the way that season of Prodigy ended, they have to. You can't leave that dangling there. I mean,
I love those dangles.
The way that it ended was just like, it was just like, so we're gonna be Starfleet officers and blah 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 blah. All right, cool, whatever. And then they cut to Janeway on the bridge of what I'm assuming was Voyager, and apparently the ship those kids were on that they stole from someone else was Chakotay's ship.
Oh, wow.
And And basically, and so it cuts to Janeway on some, don't worry, Chakotay, we're coming to get you. And her ship goes to warp. I'm like, oh, see, now I'm in.
Yeah. And
like, oh, that's cute. That was a cool ending. You know, the kids are now dedicated to Starfleet, whatever. You know, the ideals of Starfleet and, to seek out new life and new civilizations. Man, that's cool.
And then honestly, that would be good because say if the second season they do get caught and they throw them into the academy, and now we have a whole season of them being in the academy. Mm-hmm. And that expands on it even more. Because remember they were floating around that idea of doing a Star Trek Academy
they've been doing
CW teen show basically.
Starfleet Academy has been an idea since Shatner was still doing movies.
There's a video game for it, I know.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Like
there is.
But all right, well, everybody, once again, thanks for listening to us rant about Trekkie stuff. Strange New Worlds was really dope, and all the adjacent IPs around it. And yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. I'll probably go rewatch the Lower Decks episode for like the 5th time.
It's good. It is a good episode.
It made me go back and rewatch Lower Decks again, where I've watched it multiple times. And it's just on the background and just hella fun.
Then the Q reference was hilarious too. In that episode, what did she say? No, they're not. They haven't met. They're doing what is it?
They're still doing the Trelane thing.
Yeah. yeah.
Dude, so good. So good. Yo, and why do they talk so fast? And their references are so specific. So good. But yes, everybody, thank you. Oh, also before we go, if you are listening to us on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple, drop us a review, 1 to 5, like us, hate us, whatever, but give us a review. Helps the pod out. We're trying to organize our ish a little bit more. We got some stuff coming to talk to you guys about later, but yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
And rest in peace, Clarence Williams III.
Salute that man.
Legend.